All right, guys, welcome back. This is the Foolish Optimist podcast. I'm your host, Amy McDonald. If you are new here and you don't know what we're doing, we are on the hunt for the next generation of leaders. If you haven't yet subscribed wherever you're listening to the podcast, please do that. And if you're feeling magnanimous, you can rate and review it. It's a huge help for us. Now, on to the fun part. Today, we have Daniel Byron as a guest. He is running in Pennsylvania's 9th district, the U.S. Congress. He is a single father, a full-time student, and a full-time retail manager. He's been in Pennsylvania for over a decade and has really grown to love the state. And now he is hoping to represent the 9th district in Washington, D.C. Daniel, how are we doing? How are you?
Pretty good. Thank you for having me.
I'm so grateful that you're here. So we do start the podcast the same way every single time, but maybe you could give us a little backstory about why you are running in 2026.
Well, I think like a lot of people who you've probably heard from, when I saw Donald Trump win that second term, I kind of realized that this wasn't a fluke, that good systems fail all the time. They don't fail twice in a row in the same way, right? There's definitely a deeper problem. And for me, being a father, my 4-year-old son is everything to me. And I just couldn't live with myself knowing that I didn't step up and do something. If I'm being 100% honest, I didn't have faith that my own party would present a candidate that I felt would actually do something. So I decided to run within it.
That's interesting that you say that. So I was looking at some of the past elections in the 9th Congressional District, and it seems like the same person has been running against the incumbent a lot.
Yeah.
Or at least the last couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll tell you, Amanda Waldman, who's the previous candidate, has been amazing. She's actually done a lot of the work to help myself and the others that are running in the primary act with the resources we need within the party. So she's been a fantastic advocate for us. It's just one of those things where, we have to get regular, everyday people out there to run for these offices, and we have to do it aggressively.
Yeah, no, and I agree with the statement you made where like the Democratic National Party, I just saw the sign behind your head, the missing sign. It's fabulous. But the Democratic National Party makes these big decisions about which races are, like, air quotes for people not watching the video, important or not.
Yeah.
And then they just kind of hang people out to dry. Like each congressional district in Pennsylvania has like 700,000 people.
Mhm.
And, it feels like, thankfully, Amanda has run in the past numerous times, but like there's other parts of the country where these incumbents go uncontested for decades.
Yeah, it's actually when I made the decision to run, having no prior political experience, a lot of people were asking me, why make such a big jump? Why go from nothing political to running for Congress?
Why not run for city council?
Yeah. And here's the thing, if I'm being honest, I think that those city council and school board seats are significantly more important than the congressional seats as a whole, right?
Yeah.
There's significantly more of them and they do more with your everyday life. But one of the things I noticed in my district is we don't have a lot of people stepping up to run in those local races, right? So
Right.
I wanted to demonstrate was that if a single father, full-time student making under $45,000 a year can run at this level, then you could run for city council and school board and mayor and get out and run for those seats that we really desperately need to be more competitive with.
I love that. I think that's like a really great idea. And I think you're right. I think running a campaign is hard. I liken it to a startup. I've been the first hire on the field team in a campaign before. Find my first volunteer and then literally go and hire more people. So like I haven't done the candidate side of it, but I do understand just the startup bits to it that are it's a lot. But it is doable. It's feasible. And like you said, we do need more normal, regular people. I think people always forget that, like, George Washington and Tom Jefferson and, like, James Madison, they were farmers. They were writers, too, but they were farmers.
Yeah. Our country was never designed to be run purely by billionaires and millionaires and people who have made it a career in politics. It was meant to be representative. And if I'm being honest, it's not representative to only send lawyers to DC. Love a good lawyer who can defend you well, but at the same time, that's not representative of my neighborhood. I mean, I don't live among lawyers, so.
God, and you wouldn't want to either. That would be really annoying at the coffee shop, wouldn't it? Well, and I think that you're right. And I also like this kind of ties back into that Democratic Party, National Party thing, right? Like everyone gave AOC such a really hard time because she was a bartender, but like she wasn't just a bartender. She was a community organizer. She was an activist. She was a college graduate. She like you. I think the thing that irks me the most when I think about our national stage of politics is it is representative. It's very representative of upper middle class and older, frankly, white people.
Hmm. If we're being honest too, I mean, I was trying to figure out where that upper middle class is. I mean, it feels like it's shrunk significantly. I mean,
Yes.
growing up, I feel like there was significantly more of that upper middle class. And now the majority of at least my community feels like it's maybe not even in the middle class. It feels like it's, falling out of it pretty hard.
Yeah. Well, and my entire life's work on the internet is talking about history, and it's mostly about deregulation. Because people are like, "Oh, we wanna make America great again," and I'm like, "You wanna make America have a middle class again. That's what made America great, was we had a
Yeah.
really strong middle class."
Yeah. One of the things, so for context, for listeners who aren't in the ninth district, this district is ruby red. It's as red as you can get, right? It's easily a 3-to-1 ratio when it comes to registration. And when I'm out talking to people, I'm not talking to Democrats, right? Like I'm talking to mostly Republicans and having conversations with them about what's important to them right now. And what's interesting to me is affordability is one of their biggest concerns. They're talking about, they don't use the same words, right? They're not talking
Right.
about healthcare affordability, but they're talking about, the price of their healthcare. They're not talking about
Yeah.
housing affordability, but they're complaining about the cost of their rent or the cost of their housing or the value in their house going down, right? So,
Yes.
they're still having these affordability conversations. They're just having them in a different way. And when I ask them, well, how do you fix that? They go, we got to go back to the 50s and 60s. And if we're going to play that game for a moment and say, okay, what was great about the 50s and 60s? They always list off the same things to me. A man can go and work 40 hours a week and provide for a family and put their kids through college and own a few cars and live a comfortable life on 40 hours a week. That sounds amazing. The one caveat I have to that is I want that for everyone, not just the man.
Right. Well, and the reason we could do that was because we had a marginal tax rate where we didn't I I got in a fight with somebody who works in finance because I live in New York, and New York City is a company town. We're a finance town. And someone was like arguing about billionaires, and I was like, "Billionaires didn't exist for a really long time because we taxed them appropriately." And that's literally how we get, I don't know, the national parks, the highway system. Uh, it's how we get like lunch in schools for underprivileged kids. Like
Yeah.
that's how we afforded a 40-hour work week and multiple cars and affordable housing. And oh,
Yeah. It's crazy to me too, because those programs that, we afforded on that system, right, are the same programs that now today the Republican Party doesn't really want to mess with, right? Like you don't hear Republicans talking about how awful it was that Eisenhower built the interstate system, right? You don't hear Republicans talking about,
socialism,
yeah,
socialism, and
yeah.
in highway system.
Let me give you a District 9 example of this, right?
Yeah.
In the northern tier of our district, we have a few very rural counties, right? And these rural
Right.
counties, they realized that they wouldn't have access to electricity, right? Electric companies, capitalist electrical companies would not invest in expanding electric to all those homes because it just wasn't
There's
possible.
not enough people and
Yeah,
homes.
enough people.
Yeah.
Yeah, just too spread out, right? The distance between one home and another, the cost of that, the wiring,
Like infrastructure.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
just
I
too much,
see.
right? So what they did was they actually formed co-ops. They formed community organizations to go and essentially run a community run organization to build out their electrical grid to make sure that everybody had access to electricity. If you had proposed that exact concept right now in the ninth district, it would be socialism and it would be
Yeah.
completely shut down. But that very progressive idea is something they love. At the at the state fair,
Sure.
that's where they get together and have their meeting for how they elect their board of directors at the state fair. So
I
the
love that.
communities come together to build this amazing organization to provide electricity to their people. That's an extremely progressive idea. And this is where I make the argument when I hear the Democratic Party suggest that these progressive ideas won't work in rural communities. I push back that they're already working in rural communities. You're just not communicating them good enough.
That's the whole thing. There's a massive communication issue, right? And of course, at being Americans and being raised here, we have been conditioned to hear the word socialism and just be like, my God, it's like a witch in water, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and it's working. But when you do present it, like you said, when you present it in a different fashion, people are like, oh, that's actually great. And we actually do something like that already.
Yeah. Yeah. It's truly just a matter of communication. And I know I hear the party talk a lot about messaging and that
Yeah.
they think that's where the only place where they failed is on messaging. I do push back on that too. I think
Yeah.
it's more than the messaging, right? I think we truly haven't really pushed for, the working class. We, in a lot of ways, we've kind of abandoned the working
Yes.
class party. We've haven't really been speaking to those specific issues. I think when the Republican Party paints the Democratic Party as the party of woke, I think that speaks to exactly where the working class person is. They think that the party is more focused on those issues than
Right.
focused on affordability and working class issues. And my point of view on this is just the party needs to simplify it, right? The Democratic Party is the party of tolerance and the working class, period. All those woke issues fall within tolerance, right?
Right,
We're
and we
not
can
asking,
have an 8-hour conversation about it if you want, but
yeah,
for it's not gonna fit on a pamphlet. There's
yeah,
nuance.
yeah, exactly. And this is the thing, right? Tolerance looks different to different people. We're not asking you to, go out and become best friends with somebody you don't agree with, right? What we're
Right.
asking you to do is we're asking you to not infringe on their rights and tolerate their existence. That's baseline. That's what we're asking.
Yeah.
We're asking for everybody to have, fair and equal rights, everybody to have the same opportunities, and for each other to just tolerate each other, just get through life. That's all it is, right? We're just asking for peace. That's it.
It sounds so simple when you say that, and I'm certain that the Democratic Party has paid millions and millions and millions of dollars to consultants to try to get this communications issue sorted out. But you're right. I mean, how do you think we can leverage these types of ideas around the communications and around just simplifying things to get the outreach to these rural voters who maybe hear the word Democrat and are like, "Imma slam the door in your face. I'm turning the phone off. I don't wanna talk to you."
So I think the key is getting out and just talking to them, aggressively talking to them, right? Like it's one of those things where sometimes the best solution is the simple one, right?
Yeah,
When I'm going out, I'm having these conversations with Republican voters. I'm not introducing myself as, hi, my name is Dan Byron. I'm the Democrat running for Congress. I introduce
yeah,
myself as Dan Byron and I'm running for Congress. And then I ask them, what's the most important issue to you right now? What do you care about? What gets you out? What gets you angry? What gets you hot? Like what's making you want to vote? And I have a great conversation with those Republican voters. We have a lot of commonality that we probably
yeah,
wouldn't have had if I had said, hey, I'm a Democrat, right? They would have shut that down right away. But the fact that I
right.
don't introduce myself that way and I have that conversation first, and then we then fall back in and we say, okay, well, what party are you? I'm running as a Democrat, but I don't think that should mean the conversation we just had is any less meaningful.
Significant. Yeah, exactly. Well, and I think one of my favorite things that has come out of this podcast is watching young people try different approaches, right? And I think that is something that the Democratic Party has consistently failed at. And again, because my background is it started in campaigns, but it's mostly been in startups. It's been you try something for a week, doesn't work, great. Put an
Yeah.
X through it, keep moving, and like just and I unfortunately do come from the world of like move fast, break things, ugh, that corporate jargon, but it does work. If
It
you're
does.
paying attention to the results and you're like, great, this is what's resonating with these people, and I'm still getting my message across, and they're still talking to me, and we're still having the conversation. And maybe that means
Yeah.
they go home to their dinner table and they talk about you, which
Yeah. I
is
mean, I've had numerous, more than I can count conversations with Republican voters in my district where we started the conversation the way I just described. And by the end of it, they're asking for my card, even though they now know I'm a Democrat, right? So
Hell
there's,
yeah.
it's not that these people are completely lost, right? Now, are there individuals that voted for Donald Trump that are completely lost? Absolutely. But it is not the
Sure.
vast majority of them, you know?
No, I
One
agree with that. Yeah.
one of the spots that I find that the best example I have of this is actually in my own family, right? So my mom, who goes with me to all these campaign events, right, has been a registered Republican her entire life, still is a registered Republican, and has voted for Donald Trump, is starting to kind of shift, you know. And I'm not saying that she's going to register as a Democrat tomorrow and, you know, be a proud, loud, strong progressive, but I heard her on the porch a few weeks back talking to family members who had come to visit, and they were talking politics. They were talking about how she comes to campaign events with me. And, you know, she said, I don't have a home. You know, like,
I think a lot of Americans feel that way, both Republican and Democrat, right? Like, I feel like I don't have a home with the Democratic Party, and I
"Hmm,
guarantee you I'm not marching over red's not my color. Actually, it really is, which was really fucking annoying. I look really great in red and I just can't wear it anymore. But like I feel the same way. And I think so many Americans feel that way. So I
yeah,
love that you're reaching across the aisle and
mhm,
having conversations with people that like again, with people the Democratic Party at the national level wouldn't ever try to reach. But they can't,
yeah,
right? Because they don't have that face to face. This is the
yeah."
beauty of what you're actually doing.
This is the thing, right? When I go and I am around career politicians, you know, we're talking about, you know, what's your ratios, what's the numbers, what's the data, and can I just say, I don't really give a shit about the data. And it's burnt the Democratic Party twice now. We were polling.
So many more times than that too.
Yeah,
Twice in the presidency, but like,
yeah.
what are we
Like
doing? Everyone's lying. We're
you're
all lying
telling
to
me,
the pollsters.
yeah, you're telling me to focus on the data, but that data is the same data that resulted in the Trump winning these two times, right?
Yeah.
Clinton was on track to beat Trump in the polls and didn't. Harris was on track to beat Trump in the polls and didn't. So clearly the data just doesn't work, right? What works is the context, right? So when I'm out talking to voters in a very purple area, it's important to know that not every registered Democrat is going to be one that votes for Democrats down all the way down the ballot, right? When you're in
Right.
a purple area, a registered Democrat doesn't mean a guaranteed Democrat vote. There were Democrats in our district who voted for Donald Trump,
Oh,
right?
I'm sure. I mean,
Like,
there had to be plenty of Democrats who voted for just the math.
yeah.
Like, yeah, of
So, so,
course.
so when you're telling me like, what's the ratio in your district? You know, yeah, it's around 3-1, right? But
Right.
I don't think that matters nearly as much as how many doors I knock between now and November, right? That's what's
Yeah.
significantly more important is the amount of people I can personally engage with and
Yeah.
the context and the content of that conversation and how it's going to transfer over to them talking to their friends and relatives and neighbors, right? That's how you run a grassroots movement. You don't run it on data, right? You run
Yeah.
it on sweat equity and you get out there and you get it done.
We've been having this conversation a lot in New York because of our mayoral candidates, Zohran Mamdani and
Join.
Glenn. And someone was like, "Oh, he can't win." And I'm like, "No, he's going to because of the ground game."
Yeah.
It's literally physical, and it's this we're having the same conversations, right? It's affordability. It is, realistically, how do we get people to and from places who don't have cars? And like, this is something that I think these are the conversations we're having all over the United States. And I always ask the candidates what their most, like the district's most important topics are, but I feel like you've kind of already covered them. Talked
Yeah.
about the affordability crisis. Is there anything else that's like keeping your future constituents up at night?
So here's the thing. I don't think it's keeping them up at night, but it keeps me up at night, right? So that's my little bit of a pet policy. That's a
Yeah.
big part of my campaign. What's interesting is every single person that I brought it up to, after I bring it up, I think it clicks for them just how important it is, but how it's kind of existing in the background, right? And that is digital reform. So our
Yes.
country is significantly behind when it comes to the laws and regulations in place to protect consumers, right? So when we're talking about what happens with your data, it's almost become just a joke that people check the terms and conditions and move on to onto the website, right?
Yeah,
But what's happening with your data? What are those companies doing with it? What are they using it for?
I know.
What are your rights? Like, what are your rights within that data? And more importantly, if we don't start to come up with the answers right now, my fear is that the next generation, so like my son and the younger kids who've grown up with this technology landscape the way it is their whole lives, just won't know what they've lost. So they won't
Right.
ever fight for, the right to privacy, the right to data security. They won't ever fight for those things because they will have never lived in a world that had them. So to me, right now is the most like, we have to get out there and fight for this. And
Yeah.
it's not something you're going to hear talked about because again, there's 1,000 fires, happening simultaneously in this country. Right. And that doesn't feel like the most important one, but it's terrifying to me to think of what the future looks like if we don't act now.
Well, and you have to think about these like really, really big tech companies and their lobbyists
Yeah.
and what they're paying to get these things hidden from us. I mean, frankly, that's part of it. I When TikTok was originally going to be banned in January, when I found out about it, like however many months prior, I was like, "Oh, this is Mark Zuckerberg." 18 miles away, I can tell you this is coming from Mark Zuckerberg.
Yep.
His platform sucks. He's losing money, and maybe a little Jeff Bezos because of like TikTok Shop. Um, and were like, people got so mad at me and they were like, "You're so wrong." And then he broke every single lobbying record there's ever been in the
Yeah.
course of a month. Like they make so much money off of our data, and like there are companies where you can actually opt into selling your data and you actually get a little bit of money back.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't
It's
know if that's right, but for those of us who need money, I'm like,
it's better than not really having much say, right? It's
right.
better than living in a world where you're socially and sometimes even from a working standpoint required to
Yeah.
participate in these programs, and then your data is gone. You have no say, right? Like
Yeah.
there's that. I'd rather be getting paid for it, but
Right. I mean, but this does feel like it could be a really big bipartisan issue,
it
like
is.
across, yeah, like, or is that bipartisan? Nonpartisan.
Yeah,
It feels like it could be a nonpartisan issue
it really
across
is.
all parties. Yeah.
Because when I talk about this, when I talk about it with I'll give you the conservative voters, right? So when I talk with the Republican and conservative voters, they love it because what they're hearing is, oh wait, I'm not going to get 40 million robocalls a day, right? Like,
That's insane. The fact
and
that we just live like that is
yeah,
insane.
yeah. So they're like, wait a minute, so you're telling me you want to do something about the fact that I get dozens upon dozens upon dozens of calls from random strangers trying to scam me every day?
Yeah,
Like, yes, that's a big issue. I don't know why we're not talking about.
it is. You're right. I mean, we like you said though, we've become accustomed to it. It's just the way we live, which makes Europeans want to pull their hair out. Like they're like, "You do that? You pick up like, are you insane?" And you're like, "We're going insane for sure."
Feels like it.
What's it like when you talk to some of the purple voters around this digital safety?
Yeah. So generally speaking, most of the voters that we talk to out here it's so interesting, right? When you're in a very purple area, when you talk to people, you have no way of knowing where they're going to go with things. I've talked to voters who are hardcore Republicans because they just are dead set on, abortion is
Right. It's
abhorrent,
usually
right?
abortion.
But then you get talking about other issues and you realize like this person is otherwise just super progressive. Like their ideas, their economic ideas are super progressive. Like they also hate billionaires. Like they're they are not truly conservative. They just
Right.
that is their core issue, and that's what they want to focus in on. And so when I'm talking to these voters about something like this digital reform, I'm getting responses from every direction, but it's always positive. I've never had a single person say, I kind of like getting the robocalls and not knowing what happens with my data. Like that's nobody has said that to me yet. So
Well, and of course, it's like this is a bigger conversation around tech regulations in general. Obviously, like AI, social media, the internet. I had a conversation with somebody semi recently where we were talking about again, we were talking about the TikTok ban, and they were like, well, social media is a scourge on the earth. And I'm like, yes, it's good and it's bad. We like everything. But they're like, so I'm glad TikTok's gone. And I was like, what about an internet bill of rights?
Yeah, that is actually exactly what I think we should be doing, right? So my policy
Yeah.
specifically is what I would call the digital bill of rights. And it's because I think that of all the things that our country has failed at or not done exactly right, I do think our Bill of Rights is a very strong document that we
It is.
got right the first time, right? Like we
Shocking.
nailed it. We nailed it.
We did it. We did it.
Yeah, we did something right. We did it the first time. I will say, importantly, when we had representation that wasn't career politicians, we knocked through a Bill of Rights that
Right.
defended people's rights from the government, right? And that document has grown and evolved over time, as our Constitution intends, right?
Yes.
And we've expanded upon those rights over time, really clearly defined them or tried to clearly define them. And there's still more we can do, but that's the beauty of a Bill of Rights, right? Is it's not static, right? Like it can grow. And that's why I think a digital Bill of Rights is the right way, right? We need to set up a foundation right now for what's going to be important to us and future generations, and then allow the rapidly changing technology to dictate, what does that look like? Like, we have no clue what the tech's going to look like in 50 years, 20
Right.
years, 10 years, right?
I mean,
So-
truly.
So why should we try to legislate forward in that way? We should legislate for what is the core rights and values that we want to carry on into this potentially, crazy digital landscape that we're going to come across. And what do we want it to look like? And a digital Bill of Rights is something that would set that up for us. For me, that's
Also, like, what do we want that for our kids, right?
yeah.
We're
For me,
finally having the conversation about children on the internet.
yes,
Thank God. But
that's
yeah.
because it's our generation that was the children on the internet first, right? So
literally.
we were the kids on the internet, and it was the Wild West. And I remember talking to random grown adults on Omegle and
Yes.
seeing things I shouldn't have seen, right? Like and I'm thinking about that now and going, well, my kid's 4. He doesn't know what the modern version, I don't even know, what are they using Omegle now?
No, I think it's gone. I think that one's gone. But there's something. I mean, they're talking to grown adults on video games.
Yeah.
Like I did see a really cute video where a grown adult helped like an 8-year-old with his homework. He helped him learn not long division, but short division.
That was the majority of the interactions on Roblox. That's not the case, right?
Right. I was like, this is really adorable. Tell me about the digital Bill of Rights, what that looks like in your mind.
Yeah. So for me, the digital Bill of Rights is 5 core rights, right? So that's going to be your right to privacy, your right to secure your data privacy and data security, your right to be forgotten. So this, for me, that's the concept that, your data should not be held anywhere in perpetuity, right? I liken that to the generations before us were able to say and do stupid things when they were playing with their friends. And then when they're 18 and trying to go to college, nobody was digging it up to try to ruin their careers, right? So we got to let kids be kids, right? And let them go.
That's true.
Exist on the internet. And then maybe to some extent, we have to allow adults to learn too, right? I think our data should just not be held in perpetuity. We shouldn't be able to go back and dig up 10, 20 years ago, somebody said something really dumb, and that doesn't reflect who they are as a person now. So to me, that's the...
I have been thinking about that in terms of like what the presidential election in like 2040 will look like. You're like the comments and like tracing IP address,
Yeah, like I will tell you, when I got into this, somebody was like, "Oh, are you going to go back and clean up your internet history?" I was like, I don't really have anything I feel like I need to hide, but I'm sure that some point in time, I maybe as a middle schooler some point shared something or liked something that now I would look back on and go, yeah, I was dumb. And
right. I was 13. Yeah. They let us, for some reason, have free reign on the family computer for however many hours a day.
So for me, that right to be forgotten is a core one that I don't think we talk about enough. Like, it's all about data privacy and security, but that right to be forgotten is really important. And then To round it out, I think we need to have a right to revoke. So a right to revoke any permissions that we grant. So if at any point you give a company permission to take your data and use it, you always should reserve the right to be able to revoke that back to yourself. Fifth and last one to me is important coming from the retail space. I think we need a right to not be compelled to use online services, right? So when you are going to a store, right, and you want to participate in that store's programs, you should not be required to have an email. You should not be required to participate outside of what's there. I give the example without naming my exact employer, but if you want to open a credit card with that employer, with my employer, then you actually have to have an email.
Yeah.
Right. So I have people in their 80s and 90s coming in and wanting to, open a credit card, wanting to participate, wanting to take part.
I love that for them.
Yeah.
Opening a credit card at 80.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Like, you know what? I believe in freedom, right? I believe in freedom. I believe in your ability to do that. And what's sad is I'm telling this person who doesn't own a computer, doesn't own a cell phone, that unfortunately you can't participate. And in a way, it's become discriminatory. We've started to discriminate against people who don't want to participate in the technology.
Well, and that lends itself to other discriminatory practices as well, right? Where places are credit card only, New York City, we now have like the printable tappable cards, but for a minute there, it was just debit card or your cell phone tap. Yeah. And I'm like, there was like, you could still have your old Metro card, but what happens if you lost it? The new cards weren't getting printed yet. And like, we had a moment where literally like, and then they're like, people are hopping the turnstiles. I was like, they don't have a way to get in.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're assuming, and this goes, these digital things, it's a can of worms once you open it, right? So, yeah. Because then you get into, access to internet and how, what's the equity on that? Like how equitable is that process? Are we ensuring that rural communities?
I was going to say with the rural counties. Yeah.
Yeah. But likewise, are we ensuring that, poor families in urban areas have access to affordable internet, right? So the issue is not something that is unique to one area. In this modern world, we should be caring about who has access to the internet, when they're on the internet, what's happening on it, right?
Yeah.
And are we setting up our kids to have positive experience with the internet? Or are we setting them up to see penises on illegal? Like that's what we really have to figure out. What are we setting forward into the next generation?
It's true. I went to Germany for the first time last year and I was exhausted the first day I got there because I had a red eye because it was the cheapest flight and, barely made it to the point that like my hotel was letting me into my bedroom. And I just tried to watch like a Netflix show and the amount of different pop-ups that I got telling me all of the different things. I was like, oh, this is consumer protection.
Yeah.
It took me a minute because I was so fucking tired, but I was like, oh, they actually care about what you're doing and how you're getting it and all of this stuff and what they're doing with your privacy and data. I guess that leads me into another question about consumer protection, right? We're losing consumer protections on all fronts in every industry. Have you had any conversations with people about that?
I think that the overall people are feeling that no matter where you are, right? The best example I think we have of that is watching how these tariffs are occurring, right? So these tariffs are coming in and we're being promised by the administration that clearly has never taken an economics course that the capitalist institutions are going to somehow just agree to eat the cost of these tariffs. They're just going to take it on the chin. They're going to, sacrifice their own profits for the well-being of the country.
Right. Because everyone always does that.
Yeah. And the thing is, as consumers, the way we see that inflation isn't always just in the price tag, right? And this is where we get into consumer protections. Why is it legal for a company to just fluctuate the amount of product in the container, right? And just do that quietly while keeping the price the same. Right. Those are the subtle ways that consumers are being, shortchanged that they don't really see all the time, right? So I give the example, a family-sized box of cereal had significantly more ounces of cereal in it when I was a kid.
Yes.
My family does not just eat less now, right? It's just that the family size.
We're buying more boxes, family size. Yeah.
buying more family-sized boxes of cereal now. This is the thing, right? Is these consumer protections should be there to ensure that what the administration is saying, which is that these companies will eat the cost of the tariffs. Well, consumer protections would ensure that, right? If you had proper consumer protections,
Yeah.
you could force the companies to take on some of the burden from the tariffs. But with no consumer protections and tariffs, it's not really hard to see how that's just not going to work. And there's no altruistic company out there that's just saying, yeah, maybe except for like Arizona Teas, like they're the only.
I know. He's such a sweetheart. Gosh,
Yeah,
he's
that's the one example. I buy thousands of products at the store. There's one product in the store that seems to have that philosophy, and it's Arizona Tea.
well, and that's the whole thing with these regulations when we talk about regulation and deregulations. Of course, having like tech giants kind of like marry themselves into our politics. It's like you're not going to regulate yourself. You never have. No industry in the history of
Yep.
mankind, again, with the exception of Arizona iced tea, has ever regulated themselves.
Yeah. And here's the thing, right? It's one of those things where history repeats itself. There was a point in time where we had railroad barons who were just, ripping our country apart. They owned
Hmm.
roads. Every single thing had to pass through them. And if you wanted a product, it had to be on their railroads. And so they got to essentially control the price of every product in the country. Right. And I hear that and I go, that sounds an awful lot like Amazon. That's crazy that we just went right back to that.
It also sounds a lot like it's Amazon, right? For anything like any physical good,
You're
but it also sounds like Facebook or Meta or even Google. We've got the internet highways that they're controlling now.
Yeah.
And that, yeah, I've been thinking about it a lot. I've also been watching The Gilded Age. If you haven't watched it
Yeah.
yet, it's actually really well done. I'm pretty impressed. So let's talk a little bit more about your district, right? You said the northern counties are more rural.
Yes. The whole district is rural, right? So let me clarify that. When I say they're more rural, I mean it's definitely more sparsely populated up there with less larger cities, right? So there's less
Okay.
metro areas for them to get to. But no matter where you are in the ninth district, you're going to come across rural communities, farms, beautiful forests and scenery. It is gorgeous to be here.
We used to compete against Susquehanna College
Oh yeah,
University. So I went to the Catholic University in DC. So we were in the same conference. So we would be up there a fair amount. It is
it's
beautiful.
so
Highly recommended trip to ninth district.
yeah, it's absolutely stunning. We have some amazing state parks in our district that are just beautiful. But there are little pockets, right? There's little pockets of like suburban and urban areas. Actually, where I live, right? I live in a suburb of Williamsport, and Williamsport is known as the home of Little League, right? So the Little League World Series just ended here at the end of August.
Big deal.
It's a great time, big deal.
Yeah.
We actually get a Major League Baseball game played in our little like AAA baseball stadium, which
How
is
cute.
it's beautiful to watch because it feels right to watch baseball played in a smaller venue, right?
It
So
does.
it just feels good. That's where Williamsport is, right? So, and Williamsport is not excessively urban, but we have our urban pockets, right? And then we go down to Lebanon City, actually has the largest Latino population in the district.
Okay.
And to me, what I see here is I see this district that's ruby red, right? And I see voters who this administration would want to discourage from voting, right? I see
Yeah.
voters who at statewide and national races that they just don't want to see those people represented. And what I worry about is I worry that in a district where the local offices are controlled almost exclusively by Republicans, that ICE is going to just have free reign over this district, right? They're going to be
Yeah.
faults in. And in places like Lebanon City, where we have that significant Latino population, we're going to see ICE, maybe not overtly preventing people from voting, but definitely sitting just outside the polls to discourage it, right? So
Yeah, there's multiple ways to suppress the vote, and it doesn't have to be shutting down polling places, but really heavily armed people in tactical gear is a great way to get people to not go into buildings and just being there.
especially, in light of, the recent Supreme Court decision that
I know.
gives ICE permission to profile people. You don't even have to be an illegal immigrant. You could be a born and raised U.S. citizen who just happens to look the wrong way, and speak the wrong way. And all of a sudden, you're getting thrown into a van to decide whether or not you're illegal later after the election's over.
Right. Because they can hold you for any amount of time. It's
Yeah.
for the ruling, it's for everyone listening, it is September 9th. And on September 8th, the Supreme Court passed this ruling, and it's very vague.
Yeah.
Which is never good when we're talking about detaining people.
Yeah.
Like, it's driving me crazy. It doesn't make any fucking sense. And
Yeah.
I don't even know how it got to the Supreme Court. We have legal precedent everywhere.
Yeah.
I have a plan to fix the Supreme Court that nobody wants to hear, but I'm going to tell you anyways. We have 13 district courts. I want 13 Supreme Court justices.
Yes.
At all time. And then randomized, you get 9 for each session. So you have no idea who the fuck you're going to talk to.
Yeah.
Because this bullshit of setting this up, and I know it was years, and I know it was planned, and I know that's why we had trigger laws and all of these things, just like waiting for court cases to happen. But it's fucking rigged. It's been, and people are going to die. And I'm angry.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
okay.
my
soapbox. Sorry about that.
I like your plan because I thought to myself too that if the Democratic Party really wants to fight hard when it comes to 2028, if we make it that far, it's always the caveat. There's a lot that's happened before that. I think that there is no constitutional limit to the amount of Supreme Court justices that you could put. I do think that that's the way that, if you want to show the people that you're willing to fight, that's how you do it. You stack the bench.
Fucking do it. I literally, this podcast is named after FDR's first inaugural address, and he tried to stack the bench, and that would have been sick because we would have actually gotten even a little bit longer. I mean, what we were talking about earlier, this Make America Great Again and the 40-hour work week, that's all from FDR. That's all from the New Deal. That's from post-robber barons, people lighting shit on fire, and it's just so interesting to me to see the manipulation of the American people and how much people love billionaires.
The thing is, I'm not even sure that they love them as much as they love the idea that they may one day be them. And what I just point out to them is, you will never be them. In the current system, they're not providing you an avenue to be their competitor, right?
Yeah. They want you to be their worker bee.
Yeah. They're very happy that you're defending them and supporting them and getting behind them, but it's not because one day they're going to come down and bestow upon you their wealth, right? They're happy to have little soldiers to fight to defend their wealth. I mean, that's the whole point.
I think about it. Good God, I just thought about, how old are you?
29.
Okay. So you remember the original X-Men movies with Magneto. I don't even remember which one it is. I just remember Ian McClellan as Magneto holding back his best guys and saying, oh no, in chess, the pawns go first.
Yeah. Yeah.
I fucking love him as Magneto. Sorry.
That was the best. That was the best. Yes. It's definitely one of those things where these billionaires are out there for us, right? And I think the average person knows that, right? So when I'm talking to these conservative voters, they're not necessarily pro-millionaire and billionaire, right? Yeah. The Republican Party is doing a fantastic job of convincing them that they're the party of the working class while simultaneously being the party of the millionaires and billionaires. Because these people I'm talking to in the communities that I'm looking to represent, they're not wealthy. They hear about millionaires and billionaires and they're like, wow. Like they don't
can't even like think about that. Yeah. Don't have time.
Yeah. They're working. They just put in 60 hours a week to still struggle, right? Like they're not worried about how much money Elon Musk has. They're not thinking about the stock market, right? Because they're never going to be able to invest in it. They're not about housing costs because they're never going to be able to own a property, right? So these individuals that are voting red, they are for certain not thinking about millionaires and billionaires and defending their value. It's this weird group of the Republican Party that's doing it. They're very loud and engaged online. It's like the finance bros of the Republican
I was about to
Party.
say, it does feel like a younger generation of men, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, it's the finance bros of the Republican Party are the ones that are out here championing on these millionaires and billionaires. But the people who are actually working hard in rural communities and voting red, they could care less about Elon Musk. They truly don't care. They're never going to be able to afford a Tesla. What they care about is the fact that it feels like their communities have lost everything, right? They've lost their jobs. They've lost everything.
Yeah.
And no party was for the longest time giving them the solid answer on what they were going to do. And even if the answer is wrong, in the case of the Republican Party, I believe it is, it was still an answer, right? So
It was like a real answer, not a
yeah,
non-answer bullshit, which is what the Democrats do so well.
the Republican Party came into these communities and said, yeah, you don't have jobs because the immigrants are taking them. You know what? I do see a lot more people around here that don't look like me all of a sudden. And yeah, you know what? I also don't have a job, or it's harder to find jobs. So those two things, they make sense to me.
Right. And if you repeat the lie long enough, people do believe it. And that's what has happened. Again, that's part of like the media ecosphere of just, I get really annoyed with the Republican Party, but their media and their communication is working as intended.
Yeah. And here's the thing, as a Democratic Party, we can get mad at the Republican Party for lying, but we've abandoned those communities. We've walked away from them and essentially treated them like their vote didn't matter. So we walked away from them. We weren't in their communities telling them the reality. We weren't cross pitching them on, no, it's not your neighbor, it's the millionaire that's doing this to you, right? We weren't doing that. We just abandoned them. And then when they all of a sudden went hard in this direction, we're surprised Pikachu face. We're over here like, what happened, right? Like that's it. What happened is,
I mean, it's true. It's not just rural voters. It is, you're right. It's kind of, it is some of the city dwellers. It is also a lot of the southern states feel absolutely fucking abandoned, and they are. And, you know, and then it's the inaction and the non-answers, and then also still getting in bed with corporate interests.
Yeah.
Because, like, you know, I get it to an extent, right? To compete with somebody who is taking corporate funds, until you have enough power to ban the action of taking corporate funds, you probably maybe need to use some corporate funds to compete. Or you're like in a back alley with your arms tied behind your back saying, I'm ready to fight you. Like a chicken and the egg situation.
I will say the average voter, but the average voter I'm talking to, when I'm having these conversations with them and we're talking about, you know, what we want to see the Democratic Party become, it's definitely not a Democratic Party that's taking money from the same places that the right is taking money.
Yeah.
Right. Like, so this is one of those spots where, you know, I probably split from the Democratic Party a little bit more. Is I think that money in politics is the root of all evil. I think that if you want to do it correctly, you do have to just take the lead on that and just not accept that money, right? If that means that you have to run, you know, more efficient campaigns, if that means more creative with it, if it means you have to rely more on grassroots efforts and grassroots donors, I don't think that's a bad thing, right? So for me, I just don't want to see hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars go into campaigns from organizations that are also investing in Republican races and conservative races. Because that just tells that it doesn't matter if you vote red or blue. If the money's coming from the same place, then they're coming from the same place.
Well, and I don't think that's like exactly what is happening. I mean, I haven't dug into it. I do think that I'm with you. The money has to fucking go. The lobbyists have to go, and the gerrymandering has to go. Right? People are like, oh, we need term limits. I'm like, no, we need to end gerrymandering, because if we didn't have gerrymandering, there would be a natural extinction of people who are bad at their fucking jobs. They would get fired. Actually, like. We don't even have to impose term limits. I mean, there should be on the Supreme Court, but like people would just literally get fired.
Yeah. I mean, I will only give the pushback that I strongly believe in term limits. I believe no office should ever be able to stay in power in perpetuity. I think that having a timer on your time in office encourages you to get more done in that time, right?
That's fair.
No. Like if I could have a magic wand and just make it happen tomorrow, it would be 12 years in each side of the country. Okay. So essentially 2 terms in the Senate, 6 terms in the House. So if you could make a career out of politics still, you could serve 24 years.
Yeah, that's plenty of fucking time. Calm down. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like I know a lot of people are like, oh, well, if you shorten the time, then you won't have any experts. If you're not an expert after 6 years in Congress, then I would argue you'll
Then
never,
you should be
right?
fired anyways. Yeah. Yeah.
So if I'm giving you 24 cumulative years here,
Yeah.
then you should be able to get stuff done. I think having that solid timer on there, right, keeps this feeling of, well, I need to get stuff done because
Because
if
I
I
have to
don't,
leave.
there is a cutoff point. Like I can't
Yeah.
races in perpetuity. There will be a cutoff point.
So that's actually the best argument I've heard for term limits. My issue with term limits is I don't know if you can hear whatever the fuck is going on outside of my door, but it's I it's making my skin crawl. I'm a little overstimulated, but the we imposed term limits in New York in the city council, but we didn't actually get money out of politics. So now these people term out after 2 4-year city councils, and the people who have been in City Hall the longest are the lobbyists.
Yes.
That to me is an issue.
Which is why I don't think that these things occur one or the other.
They can't.
Right?
It's
Like,
not,
I think-
yes.
I think it's all, so I have my campaign is focused on 4 pillars, right? And I've organized it this way intentionally. One of those pillars is what I'm calling power to the people, right? And it's this idea that we need to go in and do systemic changes that will kind of restore democracy, right? The way
Yes.
it's supposed to be run. And for me, that's term limits, but it's also campaign finance reform. It's a lot more than just one thing. These things occur as a group. And if you do them all together, the result should be a more responsive democracy, right? And which
Right.
we should all want. And it doesn't matter if you're red, blue, you're green, like you should want a democracy that responds to the will of the people, not the
Yes.
will of the pockets, right? So
Crazy how that should be a universal truth here. But give me a quick rundown of your other 3 pillars and where people can find all of the information for them to like really dig in.
yeah, so I have power to the people. That is, essentially what we just talked about. I also am really keen on healthcare affordability. That's the next pillar for me. Healthcare affordability, really drawing down on what we can get done in 20, because as unfortunate as it is, we will still have a Republican president with veto power unless the Democratic Party pulls off a miracle and has super majorities, which
Yeah.
that happen. Then we do have to have policies that are going to be plausible in 2026. For me, that is pricing transparency. So ensuring that when you go to a hospital, you should be able to see the cost before you get charged, right? And you should be able to look that cost up at any point across any hospital. You should be able to.
Yes. 100%.
If we're going to have a capitalist system for our healthcare, then make it capitalist. Show me the prices.
Right.
I don't
Don't
go-
just fuck around and give me
Yeah.
something 9 months later.
I don't go into Burger King, look at the menu and go, oh, I wonder what the price of a Whopper is. It's right there. I could see
Yeah.
right? So if you're going to claim that the system's capitalist, then make it capitalist. Show me the prices.
Okay.
That goes a long way to kind of dragging it out into the light and showing people how corrupt it really
How
is.
fucking bad it is. Yeah.
And we can get some more progress done later, right? But first we need to go and make sure that
Yeah.
price is transparent. I also think that we need to put restrictions in place that prevent insurance companies from denying coverage from in-network doctors, right? So if your doctor is in-network and the insurance company has already claimed that they support this doctor, they trust this doctor is in their network, then
Yeah.
there's no reason why the insurance company should be denying coverage.
They should get fined for that.
Yes.
Like to the tune of billions of dollars. That's bullshit. Yeah.
Yeah. You've already said that this doctor's in network. You've already said that this doctor is somebody you trust. So why is it now when I want a procedure done, you suddenly don't trust this doctor and want more opinion?
Right.
It's only because you want to try to find the way to weasel out of paying it, right? So those are 2 ways that we can really quickly get in there and make healthcare a little bit more affordable potentially, or really start the ball rolling as we go into 2028 and 2032 and beyond and beyond and beyond, right? That's what we can do in 2026 on healthcare affordability. We've talked about digital reform. That's my third big pillar. Then last for me is just general affordability, but more focused on the student debt crisis, right? So for me, the student debt crisis is one of those generational issues that is just, we have to solve it, right? And my proposition for how we solve it is one that I think is a little novel. Perfect world, we would just forgive the debt and move on, right? Like
Right.
we would just take care of this, right? We can bail out banks, we can bail out our people. In the less perfect world, and in a 2026 world where again we'll have a Republican president, unfortunately, I think there is a room for us to make some gains here. I want to see us completely eliminate interest on federal student debt.
If people need to take out loans for college, I understand. There
Yeah.
should have never been interest on it in the first place. And I think it is so simple and so fucking easy. And I think, and maybe it's not, maybe economists will tell me it's all back. I don't care.
The federal student loans, right? The interest that's paid does go back to the federal government mostly. It's a very small amount that goes to the
Yeah.
actual servicers. And that amount isn't a percent. It's a flat amount that goes to the
Flat
service.
fee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the system that I would like to see happen is no interest, no compounding interest on your student debt. That's insanity, right? Instead, you just pay that service fee. Whatever the service fee is, that's what you pay. You pay your debt plus the service fee
Right.
to cover the
It's like a loan origination fee, like when you're
yeah.
doing a mortgage. Yeah.
And you just, take care of it that way. And then the interest is paid in the form of having a more educated population, a population that's actually engaging in the economy, right? Like we
And
talk
it's
about,
competitive. Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
we talk about rural economies really suffering right now. Do you know what really kills rural economies? When students leave the community to go get a degree and then can't afford to move back home. So
Because there's no local economy.
there's no local economy. So they live in these bigger metro areas where they also still can't afford to live, but at least there's more opportunities, right?
Right.
So if you have a system where we get more money into the pockets of the average consumer, right? And we say, hey, you had thousands of dollars in student loan debt. You still have thousands of dollars in student loan debt, but at least now it's not rapidly compounding in a way that you'll
Yeah.
be able to pay it off. And your monthly payments are smaller now. So you can actually start to go out to eat, go to a local bar.
To save to buy a home.
You can afford daycare now. So that means there's now a daycare that has more positions available
Yeah.
to work, right? Like there's all these things that if that money wasn't just going straight to the government and it was actually going back into the community, it would be way more valuable, right?
Yeah.
A lot of economists look at it as every dollar invested in a community usually ends up becoming $10 in the community.
Yeah.
That's the 10x rule of local economies, right? Is if you spend $1 here, it's going to become 10, right?
Yeah.
Right now, we're taking those dollars and we're sending them back to DC.
Everywhere else.
For
Pretty much
right?
anywhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when
Yeah.
we could be out here and encouraging people, especially like I think about the communities that I want to serve, right? These communities would see a sudden jolt in their economy if all of a sudden all the student loan debt that was sitting in these communities was free to go out and be spent on, the local community, all the local businesses. So
I think about that all the time. I'm a little bit older than you, but I get that question a lot, especially in New York, right? We skew older in New York for settling down, having kids and stuff. Part of it is because it's so expensive. But like that's always my response. I'm like, we came into adult life in debt. We had to
yeah,
dig ourselves out before we could think about, like you said, daycare or restaurants. It seems black and white almost to me.
vacations. I think about this.
Yeah.
We were talking about how beautiful the Ninth District is, right? At one point. And I think about how this area could be a great place for these larger metro areas like Philly and New York City
Yeah.
and even Pittsburgh. We're only a few short hours away. And we have this beautiful area with all this beautiful, it's just naturally amazing, right?
Yeah.
If people were free to go and plan vacations and go out and do things, that also brings money into a community like ours, right? I worked in hotels for a while and
Mhm.
even working in hotels, seeing people come specifically to Williamsport and stay at a hotel so that they can go, an hour north of here and go into a field with their telescope and get no light pollution to look at the stars.
Right.
Like that's tourism, right? That
Right.
we could be really exploiting a lot more of if
Yeah.
people had the money to do it.
But you have to have the leisure. You have to have the time and the money for leisure activities, which most millennials don't actually have right now.
Yeah.
That's the issue. Okay, so we're coming up on time. Can you tell people where they can find and keep up with your campaign and where they can donate, maybe your website and some of
Yeah.
your social handles?
You can find everything on Linktree. So linktr/Byron for Congress. So everything is on there.
Okay. And now we do a couple random questions for people to get to know you.
Yeah.
Cool. First question. I've just been wondering this whole time. Do you have blue eyes or green eyes?
Blue.
Okay, they look green from here, and they look like
It's
bright
all right.
green. And I was like, I've been like, what is going on?
I got the natural light and like my neighbor's nicely done lawn right outside. So,
Oh, so maybe it's reflective a little bit. Yeah. Okay. So you love to cook. What's your favorite thing? Your favorite meal to cook?
oh man, oof. You know what? I like simplicity, and this is gonna like I love cooking, right? And I love doing like complicated recipes, but there's something about just a simple fried egg on toast that just hits the spot. Simple fried egg, salt, pepper, hot sauce on some toast. It it just is nice when you do it perfect.
It's hard to do it perfect. That's the problem. Those fried
Yeah.
eggs, they're tough. They're tough. Are you a coffee or a tea person?
So I was a caffeine drinker for the longest time. But so this is going to be if you want to see what running a grassroots poor person campaign looks like, it's giving up caffeine because it means you could invest $90 more a month into the campaign. So, so now if I'm drinking anything warm, it's tea,
Okay.
uncaffeinated because it's cheaper. So
Oh my goodness. I don't know. I have like instant espresso. I feel like my brain is splitting open if I stop drinking caffeine, which
I was
is
putting like
super healthy.
$5 a day into my caffeine intake. And I realized that, okay, I do five, that's on the high end, right? So I average it out. So that's about $100 a month, right? That I'm putting towards, that if I
Yeah.
stop drinking that, then I could put that towards the caffeine instead. So that's how it's funded. It's funded on me just being tired all the time.
No caffeine, all donations.
That's
I'm gonna see if we can get you like a coffee sponsorship. Uh, what was the last concert that you went to, or your favorite concert that you've ever been to?
oh man. It has been a while. I have a 4-year-old. So
Yeah, I know. I was about to say.
those early years, you don't get much free time to go and do things. I went to see now I'm thinking like when the last one was versus my favorite. My favorite one was I was at the New York State Fair. I forget what year it was, but they had Echo Smith performing at the New York State Fair, and
I love Echo Smith.
it was before they blew up, right? So it was
Yeah,
when they were like still like up and coming, right?
they were like teenagers. I saw them too around that time. Go on.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And I was just like taken aback by just how like talented everybody on stage was. Like I was like, this is just impressive. I forget the lead singer's name, but she also like plays the drums live too. And like just
Yeah.
somebody go from singing to playing the drums. Like this was just a great concert. And the general vibe was like a daytime concert. I had I had a Orchard Palmer, which is like a apple cider with lemonade and vodka, and I was just sitting there jamming to Echo Smith. To me, that'll always be like peak. So
That sounds great. I think I probably saw them on that same tour because I saw them at a venue with like 40 people, and I think about 10 of those people were their family members.
yeah,
It was awesome. Yeah, it must have been like 2016,
yeah,
2017, 18 maybe.
certainly in that range.
Yeah, yeah. It was awesome. I also this is just a random story about me and my sister, but I was like we were out on a trip freaking out, and I was freaking out, and I was having a really bad time, and we were in the car with a couple of people who like didn't really know us, and she was like, "I'm gonna put on a song that's gonna change the trajectory of your night." And she put on Cool Kids by
Yeah,
Echo Smith.
just
And I started like bouncing, and everyone was like, "How did you know that would do that for her?" She's like, "We're sisters." Okay.
love that.
Yes. Final question, and then we'll wrap up here. What's your favorite thing about District 9?
Oh man, I feel like I've been super complimentary to it this whole time, and there's the people. You know,
Yeah.
in this journey and going, from north to south, and it's a massive district, right? It's got 12 counties. It's, 5 hours from one end to the other.
Hmm.
It, the people, right? Like I'm talking to people everywhere, and they're hardworking people. They've got grit. They've got humor, right? That's what it's been. It's been just all the people I've gotten to meet. And there's a lot of really awesome activists and especially young people in our district that are just really getting out there and getting motivated. And it's been really encouraging to get to meet all of them.
That's awesome. Guys, as a reminder, this is Daniel Byron. He's running for the Pennsylvania's 9th District, Congressional District. You can follow Byron-for-congress.com. And I hope you'll check him out. You'll support him, donate some money, follow him on the internet, do all the good things. Maybe donate your time if you were in the 9th District. If you've made it this far, thank you so much. Thank you for following The Foolish Optimist. You can follow us on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts, pretty much. We're going to be dropping new episodes every Wednesday, and you can watch the video episodes on YouTube. If you would like to, please give us a review, leave comments. You can also email us at thefoolishoptimistpodcast@gmail.com. If you see any really great candidates that I should be talking to, send them my way. Thank you.